Good morning, all. I'd like to call the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Please silence your phones or any other electronic devices that will be making noise during the meeting. Anyone who wishes to speak, would you please sign in over there, in which case you want to do it. Sign in with Denise if you want to speak to one of the cases, okay? We have the roll call of officers, please.
Commissioner Uranga. Commissioner Lear. Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Vice Chair Zerniak.
Here.
Chair Zarges.
Here. Okay. Approval or changes to the agenda. Get a motion.
I have a motion, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Yeah.
We have a motion by Commissioner Fisher, second by Commissioner Lear to approve the agenda. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? No one, okay. Next item is approval of the minutes of the meeting of July 9th, 2026.
I move for approval of the minutes of July 9th, 2026.
Second.
Okay, approval. Okay. All right, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Old business?
Chair, we have no old business.
Yep. Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Case number Z26-006. Good morning, Albert.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Albert Casillas, 845 North Motel Boulevard.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners, staff, members of the public. Our first case today is going to be a zone change request. The applicant's Mr. Scott Bannister, being represented by Mr. Stephen Green. This property is located at 750 Dalrymple Road. The zoning is D2L, medium density residential limited. And the property itself, it's about 8.088 acres. It's zone D2L. They're proposing a D3 high density residential zoning district to allow for the development of 8 residential lots, and each lot, it's gonna have a fourplex. That's what the proposal is. So here we have a location map. It's right north of City of Las Cruces city limits. You have, just to orient yourselves, you have a valley here to the west, and then Three Crosses and Doña Road here to the east. So it's kind of like right in the middle of those two main roads. And then you also have the BNSF Railroad right along the western property line. And you also have an EBID ditch that runs along the eastern property line of this parcel. So here's a close-up of the subject parcel. We got the railroad right here. We got Dalrymple Road. This is 8.08 acres, and we have the EBID ditch on this side. So the request is to go from a D2L to a D3. 8 residential lots, each developed as a fourplex. So currently under the D2L, what's the applicant? What can he do with the D2L? He can either build a single family home on each one of those lots, or they can build a duplex, by right. That's what's allowed under that medium, category. So, really the question is, is this property adequate to go from a duplex to a fourplex? Here's, just a basic proposed layout of what the subdivision intends to look like. You have the 8 lots that are being depicted on here. And then this is just the conceptual site plan that was submitted by the applicant. Here we see Dalrymple Road. We have an access point that's coming in along the railroad tracks, kind of making a loop and coming out of Walter Lane. And on here, you basically see the fourplexes that are proposed on each lot. You got the railroad, you got the EBID ditch. And that's just a little more close-up of what was submitted. Here is the zoning map. As you can see, pretty much everything in the hatched yellow, that's all D2L zones. You have the City of Las Cruces limits right here shown in the gray. And then these are existing mobile home parks. And then that's the convenience store that's there on the corner of Dalrymple and Doña Road. So prior to 2017, when the UDC got adopted, this zoning was a ER4. When the UDC got adopted, it got that D2L zoning designation. Access is off of Dalrymple Road, paved county maintained road, and it is a 50-foot right-of-way. We saw the railroad right next to the west. We saw the EBID ditch here on the east side of that property. You have those 4 private residential parcels that are located on the southeastern boundary of the subject parcel that are being accessed by Walter Lane, which is a private road. And then on the property itself, there's a baseball diamond right now, which will be removed if the zone change is approved. A little bit of history on this parcel. A couple years ago, under Special Use Permit 15-015, there was an application to construct and operate a charter school, and that was denied by the ETZ Commission. That proposal included construction of approximately 35,000 square feet of buildings, classrooms, anything that comes along with with the charter school. 2 entrances were proposed for bus and vehicle access, and it was denied in November of 2016. And, this is what I was able to pull from that case. That's kind of like what their proposal was a couple years ago. So you had the vehicular access, you had the bus access, and then just kind of like the proposed layout for that charter school. And then just more of a close-up on the proposed uses for those structures. So, this is the aerial, that's the existing baseball field that they have out there. Next couple of slides, it's just going to be pictures of what the area looks like out there. This is Dalrymple Road, looking west, across the railroad tracks. This is the subject parcel here on the right. A little bit closer to that railroad crossing. Now we're looking at the western property line of that of the subject parcel. And here I'm standing kind of like at the end of Walter Lane, just taking a closer picture of the baseball field that's there. Now I'm looking here onto Dalrymple again. This is the intersection of Dalrymple and Efrain. Dalrymple and Valle de Ville. And this is just, Dalrymple heading, looking east. Picture of the ditch that's right there along the eastern property line. And that's the intersection of Dalrymple Road and Walter Lane. And then looking back onto the subject parcel. So the following slides, these are the evaluation criteria that we have to look at for zone changes. These were the properties that were notified for the zone change request. There were several letters in opposition. Those letters were included on your packet. I did get another email during the week, and that's the handout that was included as well. So 52 letters were sent out, letters and emails in opposition were received, and then they're included in your packet, and you should have some hard copies. So when looking at 203D1 for zone changes, the applicant is proposing 8 residential lots, each developed as a fourplex for a total of 32 affordable rental units. Impacts to population, this is just assuming all units will be occupied by a family of 4. There could be a total of 128 residents. Doña County has a median household size of about 2.58 people. That's according to the census website, which could translate to approximately 82 residents. So, those are just some of the ranges that could potentially go in there. Demographics, 32 affordable rental units would increase the share of low-income households. Potential traffic flows and impacts for planning purposes. Typical fourplex generates about 16 to 24 trips per day, 4 to 6 per unit, and 8 to 12 trips per unit per peak hour. These figures are general guidelines from the ITE and similar sources. Access to the property is from Dalrymple Road, which is county maintained, and from Walter Lane, which is an unpaved private right-of-way. So the zone change, if approved, will allow the applicant to develop 32 affordable rental units. Water is available from Doña and Mutual Domestic. Wastewater will be handled by an approved NMED septic tank. I know wastewater lines are nearby, but I'll let the applicant address that issue when it's his turn to come up and give his presentation. So we do believe that there is sufficient infrastructure capacity for the proposed use. If approved, the applicant will still have to comply with subdivision requirements for creation of those 8 residential lots and building permitting requirements as well. There has been no evidence submitted that there are endangered or rare species of animal and plant life in the area. Impacts of the proposed zone change on surrounding properties. The property has direct access to the property from Dalrymple Road. It is a county paved road, and Walter Lane, which is currently unpaved private right-of-way that will eventually have to be improved during the subdivision phase. Properties within a third of a mile are zoned for mobile home parks. We saw on the zoning map that there were some areas that were designated for mobile home parks. and they're currently being used as mobile home parks. Existing City of Las Cruces zoning could potentially allow for up to 16 residential units per acre on areas that are zoned NH1S. Those are your neighborhood 1 district suburbans, and up to 30 residential units per acre, which is the NH3S. That's your neighborhood 3 district suburban zone. And I'll show you a map of what the City of Las Cruces zoning map looks like nearby. So if approved, buffer, landscaping, road improvements, all applicable fire, life safety, and building service requirements will have to be met during the building permitting process. And the applicant will implement best management practices that are identified, noted, and included in the reviews and conditions required for the zone change, subdivision, and during the building permitting application. So at least when it comes to section 203D1, we do believe that it meets that section of the code. This is just a screenshot of what I was able to get from the city website, from their zoning map. I highlighted the subject parcel right here, that's Dalrymple Road. And through their new, zoning ordinance, if we were to look at this property, the NH1S, the NH3S, potentially, they're able to build up to 16 units per acre. That's if sewer is available, or if not, then they just have to meet any immediate requirements for septic. But potentially, that's how much you can do on a NH1, which would be this side, and for NH3, you're looking at almost 30 units per acre. So that's what the City of Las Cruces zoning looks like. And then I also went on the Mesilla Valley MPO traffic count data, just to look at some traffic counts on Dalrymple Road at this intersection, I guess heading north, which would be Doña Ana. For 2022, AAWT, they had them at, I believe that's 4861 counts. And at 2025, per their information and their data, it went down to 4,700. And then going south onto Three Crosses and Dalrymple, there's also kind of like it was reduced just, by a little bit. I believe that's about 1,000 counts difference. But those were based from 2019 and 2023, so I know that, a new count's probably already due. When we look at zone changes, we also have to look at the comp plan. Staff believes that the requested zone change does meet the requirements of this section. It's not in conflict with some of the goals and actions of the comprehensive plan. It talks about planning communities for new population, ensuring regulations support plan requirements, and also to provide marketable and affordable housing. We have to look at whether or not, there is a sufficient change of conditions making the zone change necessary. When it comes to this section, there is evidence of a change of conditions, making the zone change reasonably necessary to protect the public interest. The applicant states, and this is from the applicant, the parcel was originally proposed as a 32-lot single-family subdivision. That plan cannot proceed because a feasible connection to the public sewer system was not available. The revised D3 proposal responds to that constraint. Fourplex lots of roughly 3/4 of an acre can be served by on-site septic systems in accordance with county standards, making multifamily development practicable where single-family development was not. When we look at the census data for population growth, there is a growth rate of about 4 to 4.5% per year. And this data, I kind of narrowed it down just to that zip code in that area. And it does show an increase of 8.81% from 22,270 in 2017 to 24,233 in 2021. The zone change is appropriate as it also will promote marketable and affordable housing in Doña County. The One Valley, One Vision 2040 plan calls for a range of housing types that will provide residents of all socioeconomic levels with safe, sanitary, and affordable living options. And it also enforces, and it's enhanced by the livability principles 4, which is to promote affordable communities. The zone change is not intended to cover and perfect the previous defective ordinance or to correct mistakes or injustices. And we don't believe that it's considered a spot zone. We believe that it's in harmony with the existing uses, such as mobile home parks that are nearby, existing City of Las Cruces zoning, which allows up to 16 residential units per acre in that neighborhood 1 district, and up to potentially 30 residential units per acre on that neighborhood 3 district. Property size is 8.8 acres, and there will be a benefit to the community by allowing additional affordable housing. So our staff findings, it's just basically a summary of what was just presented. They're included in your packet. At this point, based on the findings of fact, staff analysis, and agency comments, we are recommending approval of case number Z26-006 to go from a D2L to a D3 zone. Of course, the P&Z, you guys can approve, conditionally approve, or deny the zone change request. So with that said, we stand for questions. The applicant's here, and I know members of the public are also here to provide input.
Okay, I have questions of staff.
Yes, your recommendation, conditionally approve. What conditions are you suggesting or recommending?
So the conditions are basically going to be that, if they are approved, they have to move forward with the, with the subdivision proposal. They're going to have to, for the 8 lots, they are going to have to submit a formal subdivision review. With the number of lots that are being proposed, it will trigger a public hearing. They're going to have to go through the preliminary plat process before the DRC, before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and before the Board of County Commissioners. So if the zone change is approved, there will be another set of hearings that are going to be applicable to the subdivision request itself.
So those requirements are already in place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Albert, on the cover page, it says conditionally approved, but in the analysis, it says approval
No.
with no conditions.
I think at this point, I'll stick with my statement right now that I just said, that the condition is that the applicant follows through with the subdivision requirements.
So just so that we keep the record straight, that's a typo.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Casillas, what are the requirements for developing a high-density area juxtaposed to a railway line? Are there any requirements?
To my knowledge, I haven't heard or seen or read anything about a minimum distance requirement to the railroad. I mean, all along, especially inside city limits, and in some of the rural areas of the county, you see subdivisions that are right next to the railroad. It's basically just, if that's where somebody wants to live, they just have to be made aware that, you're right next to a railroad line. But the only distance requirements that we might have would be setback requirements.
So Albert, Dalrymple is classified as a local road. So if I understand the trip generation numbers correctly, you're going to add up to 15% of new traffic on that road. And you're not recommending any improvements to Dalrymple?
Not at this point for the zone change. But if the zone change is approved and the applicant has to go through the subdivision process, then at that point, that's when they'll have to meet all the development standards for the subdivision itself and the use that's being proposed.
As far as you know, are there any improvements proposed for Dalrymple for any reason?
Not at this point, not to my knowledge.
All right.
Anyone else?
I have a question. Looking at your numbers, you said the range of possible traffic per fourplex was between 16 and 24, and there's 32 units. But that's per each one. So we're looking at somewhere between 150 and 250 visits per day.
Potentially, yes.
Anyone else?
The comments on the sewer system. The statement says, because feasible connection to the public sewer system was not available. Would you please comment on that?
I'll let the applicant kind of address that one. I know in this project and other projects that I had in the past, applicants or property owners have had an issue with Doña Mutual Domestic obtaining services. I think it's an issue of the mutual domestic requiring water rights and able to be connected to their sewer system. That's kind of like what I've heard from other, other members of the public, but I'll let the applicant kind of explain what the situation was specifically for this case.
So we're saying that a nonprofit organization, Doña Mutual, is requiring water rights for you to connect to them. In other words, they're entering into the current day gold rush. Everybody wants water rights,
That's what I've heard.
and a nonprofit. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good morning.
Morning.
Please raise your right hand, state your name and address for the record.
Stephen Green, 3093 Rio Risa Loop, Las Cruces, New Mexico.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Good
Members.
morning.
Hi. So to kind of give you some background on the water issue, it actually had to do more with actually would be the sewer issue on this case is when Scott had spoke to the members of Doña Mutual, their concern was that they did not have the large enough infrastructure to support the new family development, the new subdivision at the time. And so for them to do it, they were going to have to be extensive line services done to get all the way back down to the main road at Doña Road, is my understanding. And so it was just going to make that entire subdivision unfeasible at that point. Like there would be no way to get the lots into an affordable range after the amount of requirements would be for that infrastructure. And so for years now, it's just been sitting vacant as that diamond. That's what Scott elected just to do with it because there was no other way to do something. So when he spoke to me, I said, well, if you were proposing 32 lots, there's a way to still get the 32 doors on there if we went to the multifamily, lessen the amount of lots, and just up the density of the units. So you're basically trading units for units, basically, at the end of the day. It's still keeping to the 32 doors at the end of the day. So, but we are able to go to a larger 3/4 acre lot, which allows for a septic, which allows us to bypass that infrastructure for the sewer, but still keep the water and everything that we needed to. That was the reasoning behind it.
What's the connection between requiring you to provide water rights for them to accept sewer? Forgive my ignorance.
I don't know if that's the case on necessarily this project, I was gonna say, but yeah, there is. I've heard of that in other cases too. On other stuff we have thought of doing, I would tell you that is a scenario for certain.
Other questions of the applicant?
One thing I would like to point out, and I don't know how to control this, but if we were to look at the other lots, just, I guess it would be south of Dalrymple. I don't, Albert, just one second. When you have him flip back to that Google, can you go back to that other map that shows further back? That one. So if I were able to point out somehow, I don't know if I can use this thing or not, but, oh, there you go. So down in here, these are already existing fourplexes right across the road. So there is existing fourplexes in this area. This isn't really out of context when you look at it, considering right across the road, these are all a loop of fourplex multifamily development already. And that, again, that was another trigger for me in the design, thinking, well, I mean, we're not going too far of a stretch here if we're going fourplexes, as opposed to, like you said, a multifamily development unit of apartments. I think apartments would be a lot more out of context. Fourplexes can be made to look more residential and almost not look like a multifamily if you do it correctly. And so that is the reason for the fourplexing.
Commissioner Zerniak, you had a question?
Yeah. Albert, can we go back to the conceptual plan? So if you're proposing four fourplexes, what are the other buildings? in the conceptual plan.
There's just a fourplex per lot, so 4 units,
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
8
8
lots.
buildings.
Yes, sir, 8 total buildings with 4 units in each building, for a total of 32 units.
So how is this different from the site plans that we were looking at in our packet, which showed concession, cafeteria?
That was what was, there was a previous case for this lot was all, that's what that was showing. That we didn't, I wasn't representing that previous case, so I don't know what was proposed. At one point on this land, somebody had proposed a zone change to do a larger development, but that did not get approved. This has nothing to do with this case at all, really.
Okay, so on traffic generation, if you're doing 32 units and the peak hour generation is around 10 units per unit, that's 320 trips coming out. Even if we say 1.5 people per car, you're up around, I don't know, 240 trips in 1 hour. How are you proposing to handle that kind of volume on a roadway that already has over 4,500?
Well, that would be done, and that would have to go through a trip analysis generation report, and that's how we'd have to see what we'd have to do to improve that or what we'd have to do. In fact, the engineer that is working on this is here with us, and again, those would be studies that we would conduct once we knew that we did actually have the zone change. It's hard to do all that work without knowing that you even have the zone change, because why would you go through all that exercise and not know that? So again, this is just for a zone change. This isn't for a subdivision approval.
I understand.
Right.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, there are members of the public that wish to speak on this case.
Naomi Schmidt. I'm going to go ahead and call everybody that's on the list.
I'm sorry. Anyone who came here later, please sign in with the clerk if you wish to speak on any of the cases. Thank you.
Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Naomi, who am I? Oh, there you are. I'm sorry.
May I have you speak into the microphone, please?
Naomi Schmidt, 805 Cielo Circle.
And
Naomi,
do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
you can pull that down.
Thank you. Yeah, big help. Yes, sir. Thank you. Members of the commission, I have 3 points I wanted to make about this proposal. First is the compatibility. And Mr. Green indicated that this proposal with the 8 fourplexes was, quoting him, not too far of a stretch from what is already existing. On the area of notification that we received, and you've seen, I counted the number of homes in there that I could read on the Xerox, and there were 40 homes, site-built homes, 40. There were 3 multifamily units, which Mr. Green has mentioned. That's 7% of the immediate surrounding area, and of course, this can be extrapolated further. 7% that is already multifamily. So I would suggest that this is not contextually appropriate for this area based on the number of single site-built family homes. My second concern is the traffic, which we've heard quite a bit about. The previous submission for a zoning change by Mr. Bannister was for a charter school. A traffic analysis was done at that point, and this was back in 2016, when clearly the traffic is not what it is now. The only recommendation was for a designated right-hand turn lane into the school on that particular site. So maybe working forward from that, given that we're looking at, according to your statement, sir, 240 trips possible per hour. One of the big concerns, you can see it beautifully on this slide, is that road coming out on the, let me get the directions, the West Road, which is directly adjacent to that railroad, traffic getting backed up and possibly crossing the railroad. Westbound traffic heading on Dalrymple, heading towards Doña Ana Road. This is going to be a particularly acute during the school semester with school buses needing to stop there. This is a really dangerous situation that we might be permitting. And finally, number 3 on the septic system. I spoke with Mr. Peter Mitchell. He's the District 3 liquid waste specialist. And I used the example of, and he is not familiar with this, so this is not his statement about this particular proposal. But if you have a 2-bedroom home, that's 3,000 gallons per day. 300, gallons per day. Let's assume that that's what is going to be built. So we have, 8 fourplexes at 2 bedrooms each. That would be 1,200 gallons per day for this particular subdivision. According to the liquid waste code, there would need to be some kind of nitrogen remediation, nitrogen treatment. This would not be, according to that code, a simple manner of putting in a septic tank. And this would need to be done either a major for the site or by unit. Now, clearly, this will come out more as you proceed in the process. But for these 3 reasons, I strongly urge you to vote against this, going from a 16 to a 32 unit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank? Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Frank Kachia. Frank Kachia.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
My biggest concern is I live right across the street from where they're going to exit from. And I have a granddaughter in the back with a 6-year-old kid. Now, you mentioned that half the amount of cars might be around 150. I was way off. But that's going to be a major concern when everybody got to go to work. You know, even at least 10%, somebody's going to be in a hurry. Guaranteed. That's only 10%. But with that many cars, I would bet there's going to be more than 10%. Somebody's running late when you got that many cars. And I really don't think it's a good idea to pass something. I got cancer in the throat, so I can't talk too much. But the bottom line is, that's my biggest concern because she's got a little kid and she leaves around 7:30 to take the kid wherever she has to go. So the bottom line is, I think that's going to be, many a times when I'm there in the morning early, the bus comes by, he stops at the railroad because before they cross. What happens? He stops and all the traffic, where they're going to go. So I think the biggest concern is definitely not even a maybe, that way too many cars there. You could take it from there, but I think sooner or later there's going to be an accident. They're going to say, wait, I had to get to work. It's not too many cars on the road, or some kid's going to be waiting for the bus, and good night, Irene. And so I would say a lot of consideration should be done about this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Colleen Ballard? Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Colleen Ballard, 2537 La Luz Street.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
And thank you for the opportunity to address this problem as I see it. I have lived on La Luz Street for 50 years, over 50 years, and enjoy the
Ma'am,
community
move
that
the
we
mic
have.
down. Move the mic down a little bit for you.
Oh.
There we go.
My husband and I have lived on this street for 50 years, and we enjoy the community. It's important to note that my husband and I are not against residential development, but having 32 dwellings is a bit much. The character of the landscape will change from more of a rural setting, single dwell environment to a residential fourplex environment, which is outside the spirit of the current zoning requirements. My husband and I enjoy the rural single-family dwelling setting and have made it our home. The applicant proposed fourplex duplexes does not conform with existing character landscape. It is important to note that there are some fourplexes within the direct area. However, these existing fourplexes located on Trojan Loop Drive were built in 1970 prior to the Unified Development Code zoning restrictions or any existing zoning restrictions imposed by the joint ETZ and established in 1989. My understanding is that these existing fourplexes were grandfathered in and considered a legal non-conforming use. The flooding. My understanding is that the applicant property is currently located on a flood zone and it has a large puddles of water after it rains. Has Doña County had the chance to review adequate flood control documents for approval? The conceptual plan does not address any mitigation for potential flooding. Applicant's plan does not address potential ponding issues that could be created within 32 additional units of roof space. Is a retention pond or other waste storage equipment necessary? And the increased traffic flow. 32 additional units will increase the traffic flow of the surrounding area on Dalrymple, which I drive almost every day. Has the Transportation Department had the chance to review the conceptual plan for approval? Mayville High School traffic before and after school is a nightmare. Teenage kids are in a hurry. Before school to get there in time, after school to get back home. The railroad tracks. Applicants' property adjacent to the railroad tracks. Does the proposed road access meet the transportation and railroad requirements? Additional cars with access point pulling in and out of on the right next to the railroad tracks concern me. With increased traffic flow and potential accident and injury, I would like assurance that the professionals, the Doña County Transportation and possibly railroad assessments have reviewed this for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Stephen Green. Tony Trevino. Matthew Caba. Cuba.
You'll get a chance to respond to any of the comments.
Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Matthew Cuba, 2605 La Luz.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Thank you.
Morning, gentlemen, ma'am. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I live immediately west of the proposed parcel. We've lived there with my wife and family since 2014-ish. We were here when the proposed school was thrown out there. We banded together as a neighborhood, as a community, because it is an incompatible use of the area. 32 units in that parcel is not appropriate. My job every day is to assess projects, to evaluate impacts. The impacts of this proposed project are far too great for the local area. We saw pictures of Dalrymple Road. Where do you expand it? You're discussing high-density settlement. There's no sidewalks. If you don't have a car, how do you get around? The ability to build that many dwellings in this parcel, I think is inappropriate use of this area. We don't have a problem with it being developed. Develop it as it was zoned for. There are no other high-density developments. If you were to zoom out, there's none to the north, there's none to the west. You're shoehorning in this development in an area that is just not compatible. And we've been through this as a neighborhood more than once already. What are the true impacts? What are the traffic impacts? Are we gonna be forced to settle for lower road service to our neighborhood that we've built together? I think it's unfair that the burden of this development be shifted onto the shoulders of the neighborhood and the community. I ask, if this zoning change is approved, there needs to be substantial and in-depth analysis of what is the actual impact of this development. There are times projects are proposed, the impacts are too great. They need to be scaled back, but this development needs to be done in accordance with the fabric of the community and the neighborhood around it. I appreciate your time. Thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you. No, please, no applause. Okay,
Clover Chacon. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Clover Chacon, 2520 Walter Lane.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
If I could point out on this.
may I
site
move the
plan- Oh,
mic
sorry.
down? There you go.
Is that good? Oh, okay. Perfect, thank you. If I may point out on the site plan, it looks like our houses were taken out of this. These 4 residents right here, it's not landscaping and it's not pretty like that. Those are actually our houses for the 4 residents that will be greatly impacted for the entrance into this that's proposed onto Walter Lane. That's one of my major concerns. That's the private access road that he had mentioned earlier. So let's duly note that there are houses there, not landscaping. The other issue I have echoes what everybody else has said. The traffic flow is going to be in excess on both of those. The outlets did not support a school at that kind of traffic flow at the time proposed by the school. This is going to be about the same amount of traffic. What did you say, 240 trips per hour during peak times? Again, with that proposed, you're going to have kids that are going to have to go to school. We do not have the sidewalks. Dalrymple is really a barely maintained local road at 25 miles per hour with no sidewalks and no room to build them, like he said. You're going to have extra buses, extra kids, and the extra traffic. So we're just really worried about the outlets and how that's going to affect with the railroad and the backup where we're going to those schools. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Chacon. Tony. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Anthony Granco. I live at 810 Cielo Circle.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Thank you.
Am I allowed to address Mr. Casillas in this process? Am I allowed to address Mr. Casillas in this process?
You can ask Mr. Casillas a question, yes.
Sir, Mr. Olson asked you if you had looked at the guidelines for having multiplexes near railroads. There are actually HUD guidelines as well as federal environmental guidelines that should have been addressed in your assessment. Typically, the distance is 1 to 400 feet, which would make it impossible for those complexes to be built on that piece of land. Did you look into that, or did you look into the federal HUD and federal environmental guidelines on noise? You're supposed to have a noise assessment, particularly for people that are going to be living on a second story.
Tony, no, I did not look into that. I know one of our notification letters did go to the railroad, and I heard no comments from them. But me personally, I did not look into those guidelines.
There's a lot of epistemic and formulatory confusion in your assessment, sir. I really suggest that you provide all the epistemic guidelines and the methods that you use to come to the conclusions you're coming to. And you have actually not completed your assessment. You have not addressed all the federal guidelines for building fourplexes, particularly second-story fourplexes in railroads in rural areas. None of that is addressed in this assessment. It's inadequate and it's not complete. You can just do a quick AI search if you guys want, and you'll see that this is a completely inadequate assessment of the situation. Mr. Casillas and his folks were required to provide the distances from the railroad to the complexes, and typically it's 1 to 400 feet from railroads that multi-family units are allowed to exist. In rural areas, single-family housing, I'm right next to the railroad, it's really quite loud. I find it kind of charming, actually, but it's not something that's been addressed in this assessment, and it's an inadequate assessment. There are concrete federal guidelines that require that be included in this assessment. Is it typical, Mr. Casillas, to not provide your formulatory and epistemic kind of basis for your report? Because you're coming to a lot of conclusions without showing us how you got to those conclusions. Is there a way I can see what your epistemic forms are and how you're drawing the conclusions you're drawing, what formulatory methods you're using for that?
Yeah.
You can provide me with that?
Yeah, we can sit down and go over.
I mean, it's easy to come to conclusions. I understand 4% of Americans think the world's flat, right? It's easy to just generate conclusions, but I'm not seeing how you formulated this, and you did not address the federal guidelines on this, which are quite significant in this case. So I would like to ask the commissioners that this be suspended until that can be accomplished, because that is mandatory. I'm kind of surprised that we're this late in this game and this hasn't been brought up at all. Again, please don't take my word for it. Do it as a quick AI search. You were completely correct, Mr. Olson. You know, it's a minimum of 100 feet and upwards of 400 feet, depending on where it's located and depending on the noise assessment. And there are some guidelines around building noise barriers for the people living there and people living on a second floor.
Could you just back up just a little bit?
Yes, sir, yeah. I can also just talk really loudly
That's
because I have that kind of a voice.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So you were correct, Mr. Olson, in that this is an incomplete assessment. Federal law requires, HUD as well as the federal environmental laws require that Mr. Casillas and his team have an assessment of the noise and the impact of the railroad it will have on the people living, particularly on the second floor of those dwellings. And federal guidelines, I understand since 1987 forward, have required that that distance be about 1 to 400 feet in a rural area if it's a multi-family complex. They don't do that for single-family dwellings because all of America's got railroads and single-family dwellings. They've left that alone. But with the density of a fourplex, you run into all kinds of other noise issues. And that's missing in this assessment. That's required by federal law. We need to have that addressed before this is even looked at. And I don't believe that the 1 to 400 feet can be met under those conditions unless potentially they were to put half as many buildings along the very back side of the wall or the back side of the property. But it does not meet those guidelines. And again, you can look that up in 30 seconds on your phone.
So you stated that two different ways.
Yes, sir.
You said it was a guideline. Then you said it was a requirement.
Yeah, well, I'm a social worker. I'm not a zoning and planning person, but I am a professor, and I did teach in public health for a long time. And those I'm not sure to what degree the requirements and guidelines, you know, the nomenclature of that, and to what degree those are legal forms or suggestions, I'm not completely sure. But it seems to me grossly inadequate in an assessment that not be addressed. To the best of my understanding and the quick research that I did on it after Mr. Olson asked his question, my understanding would be that the distance requirements are requirements, and that the noise is more of a suggestion, I guess, or a feel. It's a 65 decibels. So wherever those buildings are supposed to be, somebody needs to get up 15 feet off the ground, wait for the train to come by, and do a decibel. It's not supposed to exceed 65 decibels for the people living on the second floor, because obviously the noise travels higher up off the ground.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Just a quick search on that topic, and I'm just going to go ahead and read straight from the from what I was able to find here. It's federal guidelines for multifamily housing near railroad tracks primarily come from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which traditionally flagged buildings within 100 feet for potential ground-borne vibration and noise impacts. Those specific setback and clearance mandates are largely determined by local zoning, state laws, and individual railroad easements.
So the implication is that the local zoning law takes precedent. But the 100 feet, is that a requirement or a guideline?
You said 100 feet.
It says, so that it's basically a recommendation from HUD, and they flagged buildings within 100 feet for potential ground-borne vibration and noise impacts. But they are saying that specific setback and clearing mandates are largely determined by local zoning.
Anything else?
Wait, we need to have you speak into the microphone. I'm sorry, sir. No, you need to speak into the mic.
No, that's right.
I assume that I don't need to say this to this board, but Mr. Casillas, this is something
No,
that should
you're still up.
This is something that should have been handled before and not right now, right? We need more time on this. You need to have that done. That needs to be looked at not only for the person that's building this, because they could spend tremendous amounts of money and build something that's not viable. If you look into it a little bit deeper, in New Mexico, it's typically those recommendations are 1 to 400 feet for a multiplex. The different places across the state. From what I can tell in Albuquerque, it's 400 feet. Socorro, it was 200 feet. Interestingly, in Raton, it was 25 feet. I'm not sure why Raton doesn't care about the train going through the living room. But most of the municipalities and cities in New Mexico follow that 1 to 400 foot guideline. That causes a lot of problems for this. It's such a fundamental miss that it's kind of like buying a car that's missing tires here. I mean, we should have had this in the assessment. I'm not trying to belittle Mr. Casillas or put him on the spot, but these are our homes and this is where we live. And this is also something we need to look out for those residents. You know, they're being placed in a situation that doesn't follow guidelines at best and potentially regulations at worst here. For that not to be addressed in the assessment, logically is that the assessment is not adequate yet and needs to be redone. Or this needs to be added to it. That's an easy sell. I don't know how much more concrete and logical we can be about that. You can't be missing major federal guidelines and or regulations about noise and distance from the railroad.
Sir, just a minute.
Yes, sir.
One of my concerns is a catastrophic incident. And that in your research, have you determined anything that would preclude building this many units near a railroad? And because I'm concerned about
Yes, sir. Well, yeah, and again, you know, I'm a psychological person. You know, I teach social work and I practice social work. You know, this isn't something I have a lot of direct expertise in. I taught in public health at the university for 14 years, and you know, I did some research training there. So, you know, I know how to do the research, but this isn't my area of expertise. That is very much something that was addressed, Mr. Olson, indeed. they're addressing that there have been lots of catastrophic issues, with railroads in the United States over the years that they've been there, that they often occur outside of municipalities. Interestingly enough, cities manage those catastrophes much, much better than rural areas do. And this qualifies as a rural area. And I believe that was addressed in some of what I saw. It wasn't where my mind focused. My mind was focused more on the noise and just the simple reality that, they're not supposed to be building that high-density housing units close to railroads, and that the vast majority of cities, both in New Mexico and the United States, Raton exception, require 100 to 400 feet from the railroad. That was addressed in what I saw. My mind did not particularly focus on that, but that's available to everybody, and it's certainly something Mr. Casillas needs to address in an assessment. I mean, we're not missing nuances here. We're missing fundamental federal guidelines and potentially regulations that are being violated for those reasons. And so, yes, I do remember them, and I remember a comment in the research about rural areas handling that so much more poorly, partly because they have a lack of people to respond to it, I think. I don't know that that's accurate here in Las Cruces, 30 feet from the city limits. Maybe it's not, but that is part of what they were addressing. I don't know the answer to that in any depth, but it is Mr. Casillas' job to provide that for us before these decisions are made.
All right, sir, thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Sue Sendell. Good morning. Please
Good
raise your
morning.
right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Susan Sandell, 2590 Tularosa Drive, Las Cruces.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Besides all that you've heard, my only and my biggest concern is the traffic on Tularosa Drive, on Dalrymple Drive, and those who try to use it daily for the things that we have to do to live in that area. Yes, it's rural. Yes, that's our preference. Yes, we know about the train and we deal with it. We know about the Mayfield High School traffic back and forth morning and evenings. The people who come in from north of town heading to the university who use Mayfield Lane or Swartz to Dalrymple to get to Doña Road or between Doña and Valley. We know that most of those people do not obey the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, which is why there's often a sheriff's department vehicle parked at the end of our road, parked behind the Circle K, somewhere along the way. This number, 240 cars per hour additional, is not just frightening, but you think about the complete changes in the lives of everyone who lives up and down Dalrymple. And we're talking not safe. We're talking particularly with the speeding and young drivers. This is a huge concern, and I don't think it's only me. I think it's the lives of all of us who live up and down Dalrymple and even Mayfield Lane. I'm sure some of those who front Mayfield Lane near Dalrymple have the same concerns. And that's all I have to say, except that I thank you for giving us the opportunity to address this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make a comment.
I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. You can sit down. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make something clear. It's not 240 vehicles per hour. That's a peak hour number. That happens once a day, maybe twice a day, one in the morning, one in the evening. But the total vehicles is much lower than that over the whole 24-hour period. So I don't want you to get the idea that there's going to be 240 vehicles every hour of the day. It's not that high. And it could actually be lower or higher than 240, depending on car ownership in the development. So we need to be clear about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon Wells. Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Sharon Wells, 2587 Tularosa Drive.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Hi. I just would like to bring out the fact we've talked about the railroad. There is an average of 12 trains per 24 hours goes over that tracks right there. And as it is right now, there's times whenever I'm waiting at the crossroads and there's 7 cars in front of me. You add that much more traffic, you're gonna put Dalrymple just loaded with cars, and then Mayfield Lane and Tularosa Drive, we couldn't even get onto Dalrymple. The other thing is, as a daughter of a railroader, my dad talked about whenever derailments, what caused them, how bad they were, how far the cars would go off the track. Nobody's even mentioned that. I just think it'd be bad for the railroad, and it'd be dangerous for the railroad, and I think it'd be dangerous for the people living there. There would be more kids, more dogs, more things out on the track. And I just think it's dangerous and it's a bad idea. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Tim Sanders. Good morning. Please raise your right hand, state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Tim Sanders, and I live at 2541 Tularosa Drive.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Riley or Efrain, can we get the PowerPoint up there? It should be labeled as Tim Sanders.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tim Sanders, as I stated, and just for background, I retired from BLM after a 30-year career, most of it in Las Cruces. And I was also a member of the ETZ, the former ETZ, for 5 years, so I've sat in your chairs more than once. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning. One thing I want to mention before I start is that I talked to Doña County, or Doña Water yesterday, to the person who is responsible for subdivision development. Her name is Melanie, and she told me she has never heard of this proposal. I was asking her about sewer versus septic, because there's a sewer line that goes down Doña or down Dalrymple, and I couldn't understand why they were proposing a septic system, but she flat out said she did not know about the subdivision. So I don't know who they talked to, maybe the CEO, but it seemed like you would start with the subdivision person. So with that, I'll start my presentation. It's not long. There we go. Got it? Yeah, I got it. So, okay, yeah, this is part of your packet, but I wanted to point out the first highlighted section. It talks about the former zoning, the former zoning for the properties that were in this neighborhood. In 2017, the zoning was, or 16, the zoning was changed from a half-acre per lot zoning to what is currently the zoning, which allows houses on per 6,000 square feet. That was a massive change, and I think Commissioner Zerniak was a part of that process. So less than 10 years ago, this whole neighborhood was rezoned, and here we are again with another rezoning proposal for the 8-acre parcel. This slide shows part of the neighborhood that was rezoned. The yellow is the area that used to be 1/2 acre per lot size, and it was current, now it's all been rezoned into the current zoning, which would allow 6 to 7 houses per acre. As you can see, these parcels are all about 3/4 of an acre to 1 acre in size. It's a little bit skewed because of the size of the presentation, but there is clearly, this is clearly a rural subdivision that has many 3/4 to 1/2 acre, 1/2 acre to 3/4 to 1 acre lots. The mobile home park that was mentioned is not a part of this neighborhood per se. It is across across Doña Road, and I'm sure many of you have seen it. You go down Doña Road, and it is on the east side, and it's clearly another neighborhood. I believe that it's in the Las Cruces city limits. We are in the county. The second highlighted where it says background, I was on the ETZ when this parcel was proposed for us to put a school there, and I believe it was the same developer. We asked the developer over and over again what he was going to do about the road situation, and the ETZ never got an answer. The proposal was tabled at that time, and then they brought it back a couple of months later, and still no answer about what he was going to do about the traffic situation. And so, as it says, the ETZ denied it 5-0. Now, the one thing I want to point out in this next series of slides is this is the current zoning, and what I've done is highlight the uses that are allowed under there. And it's my understanding that once a parcel is in a zone, that any of the uses that are in that zoning category could come forward to the county commission. This has been seen as an apartment complex of, a fourplex with 8 certain apartments, but and that's not allowed in the current zoning, which is the D2L. If you go to the D3, all these uses would be allowed, including the last one. If you look down at the bottom there, that is an apartment complex, and as near as I can tell, it's of any size. So what I'm concerned about is moving from one zoning category to another. Doesn't just allow them to build an eightplex, it allows them to build a whole string of different uses that are not compatible with that neighborhood. I'm not sure what the motives are here, but a lot of times these rezoning cases result in the parcel going up for sale once it's rezoned, and you get a whole new developer in there trying to do something. So it just doesn't seem right to me. There's some more of the stuff that would be allowed under the D3 category. I'll skip by that. What I want to do is show you some pictures of the intersections. This is the intersection of Mayfield Lane, which connects this parcel to the west, and Valley Drive, or Highway 185. I asked the State Highway Department, but my understanding when we were doing the zoning for the school, that this intersection was rated as they have an A, B, C, D, and this intersection is rated as a D by the Highway Department. And they have a lot of concerns, and there's 3 different intersections that connect to Valley: Swartz, Doolittle, and then this intersection here, which is Mayfield Lane. This is the infamous railroad tracks that you've heard enough about today, I suspect. And lastly, I wanted to show you the intersection of Dalrymple and Doña Road. As you can see, there's a Circle K on the right. And this is another intersection. It's not rated because it's not a highway department, it's a county intersection, but it's just as bad as the one that connects Mayfield to Valley Drive. So in summary, I just wanted to say my big concern is that this is not just about an apartment complex. It's about a total rezoning of that parcel and all the uses that could possibly occur there in the future. I think we're building another Hoagland, another McClure, with all the intersection problems, and I just hate to see it happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions? So moved.
Daniel Castillo? Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Sandra Castillo, 2561 Tularosa Drive.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I wrote a letter, which I'll submit. I hadn't submitted it yet, but it's very simple. We are back of the property, or the property is on the back of us, and we do not support the proposal. We're opposed to the proposal, of course, for the same reasons that many people have already said. It's a rural community. When we move there, you know, farm feel, and so we're opposed to having that kind of a complex put in to change the environment that we live in. One thing that they did talk about was the mobile home park, and they've talked about that, but it does not dump or it does not lead onto Dalrymple. It leads onto Doña Road. So really, that doesn't have effect on the traffic too much on Dalrymple, the existing mobile home park that they've referred to in the area. One thing I think maybe that we haven't talked about is water. The demand for water in the area. We get our water from Doña Mutual. A lot of times our pressure, we lose pressure probably weekly. So we've got some issues with that. And it is my understanding, and you would have to look this up for verification, but it's my understanding that sometimes the wells go down with Doña water. And so currently they are buying water from the city of Las Cruces to fulfill their supply. So, you know, that's another question about the water issue out in the area. Okay, and basically, that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions?
Jamie? Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Jamie Wallace, 800 Dalrymple.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So if the slide was still up there, pardon me, if the slide was still up there, you'd be able to see my home. It's the green belt, it's the orchard. The thing that we haven't addressed is that my property and Sandra's, they're ag, we're homesteads. I have a pecan orchard, a farm. She has a pecan orchard and a farm. I have 2 wells. I've had a well that went dry already. What is this gonna do to our orchard? What is it gonna do to our farm? I mean, the front trees in my property, if you drive down Dalrymple, pardon me, I haven't had enough coffee. They're already suffering from how little water we get now. This year we got 2 inches from the Rio Grande. And I don't know about your trees, but mine are suffering. And if you count the trees in the area, there are several trees that are dying on multiple of our neighbors' properties. The thing about the road is Valley and Doña, a lot of people use our road as a cut between because they don't want to get funneled into the tighter spots. So we have a lot of non-organic traffic that comes through there from the school and from people trying to skip really quickly into town. Because the next one's Hoagland, which is an absolute nightmare. There you go, you know, you can see it. We have harvesters, we have
tractors, we have farm equipment, we have early morning chores that happen that are not conducive to having small families that are not used to this living. I mean, my neighbors here are used to our noise. They're used to the disturbance that happens when you have a farm right next to homes. It's not city living. It's not appropriate for city living. You're going to put a bunch of people in there that are not used to four-wheelers running down the railroad tracks at all hours of the night, harvesters backing up traffic. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a dangerous idea. And we have had multiple problems with the fast housing that is already across the street. I had pecan theft, them cutting our fence and coming in and harvesting our pecans. I had a trailer disappear. I mean, it's not conducive. We picked this area for a reason. We wanted to seclude ourselves from the urban living, from the problems that come with the city. That's why I chose my property. I'm a disabled vet. I want quiet. I am okay with the train. I do not want a busy apartment complex right across, literally right across the street from me. And I don't know anybody else that does. I don't know who this benefits, but it definitely doesn't benefit any of us who live there, who have lived there, who have chosen to put down roots, who have chosen to put down homesteads. Thank you.
Wait. So your property is on the northwest corner?
That green belt right there, that's me. I'm directly across from it.
And do you know what the depth to groundwater is?
So we had a well that went dry. There's a previous owner who we were good friends with, but he's since passed. He put a well that was in the back corner of that, and it was at, I think he said 100 feet, and it went dry. So they had to rebuild our new well, and he was an old EBID worker, so he put it, I think, at 300 feet. But we're the deepest well in our area because we didn't want to do it again.
Thank you.
Yes,
But
sir.
these,
Yes, ma'am.
these fourplexes, I don't think they're going to be using water wells. I mean, they don't think, Moongate, I thought I read in
But doesn't it still deplete our aquifer?
out of the
Doesn't it
Moongate,
still
but not
compete with our
immediately
water?
there.
I'm sorry,
From Moongate, but not immediately there.
but not from us.
The aquifers vary all over. So
I
you
don't
can't say
specialize
that.
in water.
Yeah,
But all I
this-
know is I own water rights, I pay for them. It's been a challenge every year. Every year we get less and less and less.
Yes, I agree. Yes,
Anyone else?
it's not going to change.
Okay, thank you. That's it?
There's no more. No more for this case.
Okay. Should hear from the applicant to comment, respond to some of the comments. You don't have to be sworn in again. I don't
Got it.
think.
So, yeah, just to address some of the concerns, and again, respectfully. So, one, with the railroad, if you look at the actual development of it, the road itself is 50 feet. The house would be another additional 25 from the road, so that's 75, plus the initial buffer to the center of the road, which is another 35. So we're over the 100-feet buffer automatically. Also, just to reference, this is not HUD housing. This is just multifamily development. And so the HUD guidelines wouldn't necessarily apply to this anyway. However, we would look into that as part of the subdivision requirements when we do the design phase. If there were safety requirements, those would have to be met, because obviously the railroad would have to be notified. One of the reasons with Doña Mutual Water, the reason they don't know about this development, it's not this development that they were inquired to. It was the original 32-lot subdivision that was going to go in there for the single-family lots. That's where we spoke to Doña Water, and that's where they had the complaints with the sewer. So to answer that question also. A couple other things is, you know, we are currently allowed to do 32 lots as the zoning sits. So the door count does not change one way or another. We could do that. If we decided to go through, you'd have to just do a lot of improvements to the sewer. It would become, again, that's that affordability issue, right? So how do we get this to where this actually can become a subdivision? I understand everybody wants it to remain open field. Everybody would love to just have open space, but is that the most practical use of the actual land? Probably not. So again, to address the apartment, if we can't do a large multifamily apartment because again, we're restricted by the septic use. So even if we wanted to go in there and put a big, large apartment complex, we can't based on the septic. So we're actually handicapped automatically by that. So it couldn't go into being a large apartment complex. You know, I don't know how this has become, but everybody assumes that with multifamily fourplexes that crime comes with it. I'm not so sure that's the case, and I think that's kind of a biased opinion of multifamily. I think there's a lot of people, I grew up in a multifamily, and I don't think I have ever been involved in any crimes against humanity anyway. To the water right issue, I mean, again, the applicant owns water rights of that land also, so we'd be utilizing our water rights, and so we have as much right to the water as everyone else does, I think, at the end of the day. Again, you should mention she'd pick the area. It's a nice area. But again, if she's already having stuff stolen, I don't know how multifamily is going to keep that from happening or increasing any type of theft. I don't see where that correlates. I don't see the correlation there. But that's all I have to say.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
My concern is more with that intersection right close to the railroad tracks. Not, I mean, and why do you have to have a thoroughfare all the way through?
So that may be something we would address in the traffic concerns when we do that. One of the things is that was more of a turn in only, not the exit actually comes out on Walter over on the other side. That would be the main turn in out, would be that one. This would just be for emergency access relief. So we could do multiple things to negate that. Again, those are things that would be done. We could also redesign that front lot to pull that further away from that intersection. There's a lot. This was just a conceptual drawing of what could be done, basically. Again, we're asking for a zone change, not a subdivision approval or a design approval of a subdivision. So I think that's the biggest thing here is at this time, we're not asking for any of those. And I think all of those are valid points that they brought up. And those would be initially, they would all be addressed in the subdivision process. And like I said, it has to go through another layer, obviously, of both the staff's approvals as well as the commission's approvals, right? So this isn't gonna be the last time this gets looked at. This is just the initial start that says, you can do this. Because if we can't even get the zoning, there's no use in doing all the rest of the study, really. So that's all I have to say about that.
So are you saying, I just want to make sure, are you saying that the buildings, based on your conceptual plan, the buildings are more than 100 feet from the railway?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Green.
That's Crystal.
Crystal.
Crystal from online.
Okay, yes. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Mr. Green, increasing the density here doesn't really necessarily create affordable housing. I mean, what evidence supports that the conclusion that this rezoning will result in affordable housing rather than just market rate housing?
So I think that could be answered in the multifamily development, right? In other words, if you get more doors per acre, you're automatically reducing the cost of the development per land, right? So in other words, if you're dividing that cost of that land acreage by 4 units now, as opposed to just one large house, you are able to create essentially a place for somebody to live that would be more affordable than what would be considered on that single family residency. So that in itself would create a more affordable solution. Affordable is objective. I would say obtainable is more what we'd have to look at, right? Because affordable is all completely subjective in any development.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Crystal. Look for a motion. Any comments from this committee?
Yes, sir. My concern in this change of zoning is that if this is truly a conceptual plan and the actual plans have not been determined and the wastewater system in that is not that far away from the road and that what would preclude a change in the actual development and if we allow the zoning change, we could be inviting a change in that plan, because this plan is only conceptual right now. And so that takes care of the wastewater. In that I am concerned about the possibility of, if they do change the plans, if they would have some sort of catastrophic event there. Those are just some of my concerns with this change in zoning.
Albert, are all the other residences in the area on septic, to your knowledge? Is no one connected to Doña Ana?
Commissioner, you know what, I don't have that information available. I mean, I can just ask for a show of hands from members of the public to see if you are connected.
No,
Hold it.
no one's connected.
At one point in time, Doña Ana Water did come to us and ask us, I'm sorry,
By yourself for us, okay?
oh, Clover Chacon, 2520 Walter Lane.
Thank you.
We did have they attempted to come and let us know that we could apply to get off the septic and onto sewer. Our 4 houses on Walter Lane were denied by Scott Bannister because he owns that easement. So yes, they do have the ability, and there are other houses in that area that have been put onto Doña Ana Water's sewer, sorry. So there is that in the area.
Anyone else? We'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Dan?
Yes?
Dan, turn your mic on.
It is on.
Ooh. Sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve case Z26-006, a zone change from D2L to D3.
Second. Albert, can we add a condition on that? As far as the intersection close to the railroad track, or not?
The PMZ can add any conditions that they feel are adequate.
Restricting it?
I'm sorry, it's appropriate to the zone change, not the subdivision design.
Right.
That's correct.
Approval of the subdivision goes up to BOCC.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay. Call the roll, please. Or any comments on the motion first? Okay, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Lear,
Looking at our decisional criteria for zone change, one of the things that we state,
I'm sorry, is your mic on, Commissioner?
sorry. That's what the light's for. A proposed zone change is supposed to be consistent with the intent to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents. Given the potential problems with traffic, I'm going to have to vote no.
Commissioner Garcia?
No, I think that this might be considered a spot zoning, same traffic issues, there's not a lot of information. And then also there was no evidence, actual data to show that this would actually be affordable housing other than just labeling it. So no.
Commissioner Fisher?
I have to vote no for the same reasons, the traffic conditions, and it seemed like we're not quite convinced on what we're going to do with residences so close to railroad lines. And my concern is for the people buying them or renting that property.
Commissioner Olson?
I'm concerned about the traffic. You've got passenger, commercial, and instruments of husbandry. I don't think that's defined yet. Wastewater is an open question. In that, water pressure is a concern. The concept is a concept, not a determined actual plan right now. For those reasons, I'm voting no.
Vice Chair Zerniak?
I'm going to vote no. I have no problems with the design of the subdivision. My problem is with the land use. It seems to me that the density is a radical departure from existing land use in the neighborhood, and it's out of character. Neighborhood opposition is strong, which is something that we have to consider. And finally, Dalrymple is a local road, which I don't believe supports a high-density development, regardless of the design. And the rail line complicates it even further in terms of safety. I agree.
Chair Zargis?
I'm also going to vote no, basically for the reasons that have already been stated, especially the traffic flow. So the motion is denied by a unanimous vote of those present in the commission. Thank you very much. Moving on, case number SD 25-050.
Chair, can we just get like 5 minutes so the room clears and then we can start?
I'm sorry, what?
Can we get 5 minutes just so the room clears and then
Sure.
we'll start?
Want 5?
Take a break, people. I already blew my old. I already blew my. Don't worry, I'll do the presentation. Yeah, it's gonna walk in, like this. What with the wheelie? And Benny doesn't like to talk. So I said. That's what Mary said. Yeah, let's keep it. And then he said, I don't know, there's a guy that works in the winery. Tomorrow. Yes. Jacob or something like that. He said, well, maybe he can. So. I don't know a lot about him. I know that. So I think they're gonna get along. Okay. Well, that's good. That's right. Right, yeah. So, as far as the class goes. Okay, let's come back to order, please. Our next case, SD 25-050, plat approval for Arroyo Mesquite subdivision.
All right, Commissioners, our second case.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Albert Casillas, 845 North Motel Boulevard.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
So our second case today is going to be a subdivision request. This is going to be a type 3 subdivision for 16 residential lots. The parcel's almost 28 acres. The lots ranging in size from 1 acre to 8.71 acres. And this is to be known as the Arroyo Mesquite subdivision. It is zoned D1, which does allow for 1 acre minimums. It's located on Sunland Avenue, Las Cruces, New Mexico. So it's up there by Westmoreland, you know, the Rey, La Reina area. And it's owned by Ramon and Vanessa Chavez, and the applicant is Doña Development Services. So here is a location map. This is 28 acres. We have La Reina Road. We have Sunland Drive or Avenue. You know, that's the main access to the subject parcel. Other points of access, you know, we have Westmoreland Avenue down here, and I know just recently, Pueblo Trail, Rouse, you have Mescalero, you know, those were recently improved by the county. So they did go out there and pave those roads. So there's multiple ways of access to those, to the proposed subdivision. And here is the close-up of the subject parcel. This is Sunland Avenue. La Reina is going to be here to the left. You have the Arroyo, you know, it's kind of taken pretty much over the northern portion of that property. But Sunland Avenue is paved. Here is the zoning map for the subject parcel. Basically, everything around there is D1. This wide portion, it's an institutional use. I think there's a flood control structure there. And then you have a D2 to the south, but pretty much everything to the north and, you know, west, it's all D1. So they're all 1 acre minimums. So if sewer was available, you know, they would be able to go down to 6,000 square feet, but because they're on septic, you know, they're limited to that 1 acre lot size. The subject parcel is part of this, you know, EBLT subdivision. You know, those subdivisions, this subdivision is probably one of the most antiquated ones here in the county. It recorded in 1911. And I just took a screenshot of the parcel, but it's identified as block number 10, lots 8 through 10, 32 through 34. So it's kind of like in this area right here. So technically, you know, even though it's a 28-acre lot, by right, they have 6 5-acre parcels within, you know, almost, you know, 5-acre parcels within the existing parcel. So just imagine, you know, these 6 lots on top of this right here. That's basically what they have out there, based on that subdivision that was recorded, you know, in 1911. And then the lots immediately south of the subject parcel, those were platted a little bit later, 1966, and those are about, you know, a quarter of an acre. And that's these lots right here. So that came from a replat of that plat recorded in 1911 that was done in the 60s. So 16 residential lots that are being proposed. Utilities are going to be underground, with the exception of solid waste disposal. Moongate Water will be the water company. They'll provide that water for them. Septic tanks are being proposed on those 1 acre lots. Access to the subdivision will be from Sunland Avenue onto Calle Real and Calle Rico. They're all going to be 50-foot right-of-ways. All residential lots will have access to paved maintained roadways, meeting all the applicable standards. Roads within the subdivision will consist of 24 feet of asphalt pavement over a compacted base course and subgrade preparation, 4-foot shoulders and flush header curb, and 9-foot parkway. Total dedicated right-of-way will have a width of 50 feet. No recreational facilities are being proposed, and no lighting is required. So this is basically the preliminary plat that's being proposed. Yeah, Sunland Avenue, you're basically going to have an internal loop with the cul-de-sac here, and then Calle Rico will connect back to Sunland Avenue. As you can see, the large lots that are being proposed, it's basically on the northern portion of that plat where the arroyo exists, so that they're already calling out that that portion of the arroyo. The idea is that at least for those lots, there'll be a portion available for a site pad, for a proposed home. But so basically this is north, so that's why he's proposing those large lots. Here is a picture of what the area looks like around there. So that's Sunland Avenue, Westmoreland, you have La Reina. These were the lots that were platted at about a quarter acre. And then everything, you can kind of see the remnants of that plat from 1911 where all those lots were platted at a 5-acre lot sizes. So here is, a couple pictures. This is Sunland Drive. I'm looking west towards La Reina. Subject parcels here on the right. And then here I'm on Sunland Avenue looking east. And just a couple pictures here of the subject parcel. So, for the most part, there's a grade that kind of goes down towards the arroyo. The arroyo's back here. On this portion of the picture. Here's another subject parcel picture, and just driving along Sunland Avenue, taking some pictures. You can see, there's some ATV trails out there. You walk on the property, you're gonna find trash out there. This is the intersection of Sunland Drive and Pueblo Trail. This was just recently done, not too long ago. This is Sunland Drive and Mescaleto Trail, and these both, Pueblo and Mescaleto, they all connect to Westmoreland, which in itself connects back to La Reina. And then, just walking around the area, made my way down to the arroyo, and that's kind of like what the arroyo looks like. And here's another picture of the arroyo. Now I'm looking east towards Baldy Mountain. So when looking at the subdivision requirements, these are the rules that we have to follow. Those were the properties that were notified for this request. There were letters against the request, which are included in your packet. 52 letters were sent out. Our staff findings are included in your packet as well. But our recommendation as well is going to be a conditional approval for the Arroyo Mezquita subdivision preliminary plat. The conditional approval being that they address any outstanding comments before final plat. Okay, so that's going to be the end of my PowerPoint presentation. I do have the applicant here. I do have their engineers, and I know there's members of the public that wish to provide input as well.
Questions of staff? Oh, good. Thank you, Albert. Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Tony Trevino, 1868 Maverick Trail.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
So, board, again, my name is Tony Trevino. I am the engineer representative for the developer. The basis of this design was to keep the same aspect of the other subdivisions on up Sunland and also on Webb to the south, Westmoreland is the high point of that entire subdivision. So from Westmoreland, both east and west is where the drainage goes. So this design is to stay suit with all the other development in line. The drainage, the easements, there will be no development within the special flood hazard area, which is a flood zone, based on the plat and also based on the UDC requirements. The 1 acre lots are larger than the other subdivisions around. I would stand for any questions. This is kind of straightforward stuff.
If questions of the applicant.
So Tony, on lot 5, what's buildable, given that so much of it is in the floodplain?
So base here, this one is our larger lot. So here is this is more than a 1/4 acre, similar to like all the other lots to the south for a buildable lot.
Okay, thank you.
And the driveway in front, that access is plain enough for it, legal driveway.
Okay.
Other questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you. We have people who wish to speak on this.
Patricia Lionel Flores. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Patricia Flores, 5273 Pueblo Trail.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Mr. Flores, are you going to speak as well? Please
Very
raise-
little,
I'm sorry?
very little.
Okay, please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Lionel Flores, 5273 Pueblo Trail.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
I have major concerns about the flooding. The pictures that you've seen do not depict the topography of that area. In between Westmoreland and Sunland, there's a hill. Water comes down that hill. We've lived in our house for 18 years. We've lived on Pueblo Trail for over 30 years. So we've seen the flooding historically. And my brother-in-law lives on the corner of Sunland and Pueblo Trail. In the 80s, the water in that flood zone went all the way to Sunland. So it's only been in the last 10 years that La Reina was paved because of the issues with flooding. You know that there's a dam that goes right down through there, and all that water backs up. And I don't know if Mr. Casillas has talked to the people over on Boone Place, which is east of the proposed subdivision, which has only been in the last 2 years been subdivided, and how much flooding they have seen in their yards, in their driveways, in their houses. Because all of it is on the side of a hill and the water comes rushing down, especially as we've upgraded the streets, that causes the water to come down faster. And that's my major concern, is that the people who will be buying those properties are unaware of the amount of flooding that we get. We just had, 2 inches of rain, right? You multiply that times the amount of the hill and all going into a flood zone. It is a flood zone down there. That's my major concern. My second concern is my street that I live on will be one of the major accesses. At this time, since we've had the road improvement, we now have people traveling down that road 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, and the county hasn't put in any speed bumps or humps or anything of the sort. And I have grandchildren that live across the street from me, so we commonly go back and forth across the street. And they're at nighttime with no lights, you have zoom, here we go, 50 miles an hour, and the people do not care. So once we put in that subdivision at the bottom of the hill, there's gonna be more people going up and down, accessing the road that I live on and Mescalero or Rawls. My other concern is on the corner of Sunland and La Reina. It's a really bad corner. And if they travel down Sunland to catch, to leave the neighborhood at La Reina, coming down from the south of La Reina, going north, there's a hill and there's poor visibility. So you can't see, if you're on Sunland, you can't see who's coming down Sunland. La Reina. You can't see who is on La Reina. And that's a 35-mile speed limit on La Reina. And so you're gonna be turning at a stop sign. There is no lights there or anything. And it's just a poor corner in regards to visibility and design. So I'm sure the road department hasn't been asked if they're gonna, make any changes. But just with the increase of the other subdivision that I mentioned on Boone, I believe it is, that there has been an increase in the traffic on Sunland. And the last thing that I really feel is detrimental to the area is that in the last 30 years, we've seen deer prints, coyotes, we've heard, I don't know if it was mountain lions screaming, owls, hawks, and of course, turtles, horny toads, and everything else, and all that is being wiped away.
The last rain we had before this past week in that new subdivision that they just finished destroyed all their front yards. The water came rushing down. And their culverts were filled with sand because they need to go across the road and so they can go in through their driveways. I would suggest for you to go over there and look at it yourself so that you'll see what I'm talking about. It's really ugly. Poor people that bought there, I know they spend a lot of money, and I'm glad it's not me because them poor people I don't know where they're gonna get the money to rebuild their front yards because the water just took everything. Right now, if you go right now after this meeting and look at their culverts, they're filled in with sand where the water has been jumping over because the water just rushes down. So when you come to the end of Sunland, it's like this and it just goes straight down and the roads and the houses are like that. It's destroyed. All that money they spend on the houses for nothing. So I suggest you vote no on this one.
Thank you. Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Christine Trevino. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Christine Trevino, 5291 Navajo Trail.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning. I did have a few concerns. Again, same thing with a couple that just came up is the flooding. These properties are proposed to be on Sunland. Off of Navajo, our street has not been upgraded, so it's still dirt in the front, so that whenever it rains, we do have the rain that comes down, and then we have to wait for them or try to find somebody to take the dirt that has pooled up in our yard and try to get some of the dirt back onto our property. I'm also concerned about the new houses being put in, again, off of Lorena going towards the north. That road, now that they've put in this other subdivision, and the subdivision has increased the amount of water flow because of the houses being put there, the water that's coming down is now flooding Lorena further down. And so if they're trying to propose traffic going down that direction, whenever it rains, it completely floods. And we have to wait for the county to come out and pump out the street because the flood area that's been, the dam that's been built there, the ground is not low enough because it's slowly been built up over time with the water and dirt and everything that it pulls. It builds that up, and so now it's just on the street. And they have recently paved that street. Lorena just got it paved. It's still not really upgraded to the extent. That area that they also discussed of Sunland and Lorena, that blocked viewpoint, we tend to avoid that corner ourselves because we can't see it. And the cars, it's 35 miles an hour. Cars come through there 40, 45. So we avoid that. We have to use one of the other streets if we're going to go into town just for the safety of that intersection. If I'm traveling with my kids, I don't want to be in that intersection and have somebody come barreling around, and I don't have enough time to get out of the way. Let's see. Also, the other concern is Sunland itself has not been upgraded. The road is a 2-lane. There's no, as you can see some of the pictures they did, there's no middle line that shows the left and the right. It's just a paved road that has no improvement on it. So you've got to be careful if people are driving down there. It's a lot more traffic that we're going to put more on top of what we already have from the other subdivision. So people are driving in the middle of the road sometimes. We have to be careful going up and down just because if they're not paying attention, they're just in the middle because there's no street indicators as to left and right. Another issue that I did have is, which they don't show on this particular map, off of Westmoreland, we also have another property on Windmill. It's a private road. However, now that people are coming with that intersection, with the new subdivision, we've already increased in traffic off of Windmill Road as well. Because people, it's a private road, it's dirt, it's not upgraded, it's not maintained by the county, it's a private road. But the traffic has increased almost 3 times as much just with all the other houses that have been putting in. People realize it's a shortcut from Lorena Del Rey down to the bottom of Del Rey, and it's closer to the freeway. So I also had that concern because now that traffic is going to be increasing as much. It doesn't take people long to figure out you can drive there and get there half the time instead of having to go all the way around Del Rey to catch the freeway from Del Rey. So yeah, that's the big thing. The map that I saw had houses on this blue, on the left, the right-hand side of this blue line. So again, I was concerned about the flooding and if those people decide to later on build up their property or add dirt off of Sunland, a lot of properties that are being up there, they're adding more dirt to not make it a downhill slope there. But what that's causing is, I'm concerned if they start building up the dirt level to the road, it's going to increase the water flow down Sunland, and I'm on the corner property between Sunland and Navajo. So that's going to increase the water that could possibly damage my property on that corner as well. So those are the concerns that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Anyone else?
Christine Nunez Martinez. Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Christine Núñez Martinez, 2065 Salsipuedes Drive.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
I had sent an email with all my opposition on this build. I requested information about the buildings, what the plan was, drainage study. I didn't have an opportunity to completely review because unfortunately I received the 209 drainage study yesterday. It's quite a document, right? But from what I did see is there was some requirement for the builder to ensure proper drainage, ponds, basins to accumulate this water. And the same point that the previous person before me mentioned is these pictures that you're seeing, they're incredibly deceptive. Standing from our road, which we're over here on the left side of this proposed subdivision, Salsipuedes, we can clearly see this is a, oops. Yeah. This is our properties around here. This was where you guys were required to notify us because of potential impacts to our properties, right? And standing on this side, looking southbound, it's a hill. You cannot see past this hill. It's incredibly steep. And as was mentioned before, there's been some improvements to these roads. Some of them have been paved, causing the water to not absorb into the ground, run off even at a higher pace, more intense down this arroyo. I don't think this is the one that you can really see the tributaries. Can you put it on the, yeah, the closer one. This is a good one. This is a really good example of the tributaries that are already there that feed into the arroyo. This is one of the massive ones. There's already a build up there in subdivision. Unfortunately, we were not in the buffer zone to be notified. We didn't realize it until construction started. Those are built even closer to the arroyo. There's already been impact to our properties that we can see because of the build. Because these properties, these subdivisions build rock walls. They don't want flooding on their property. It diverts water aside from whatever established drainage systems these subdivisions are required to input. These properties, just looking at the proposal for the build, it really, really lends itself to people wanting to put these rock walls, which deviates water even further. We just had, what was it, last weekend? I think somebody mentioned it was, I can't remember the exact date, because we're in monsoon season, right? We've become really dependent on the fact that we've been in a drought the last 10, 15 years, really super low water input coming in from rain, from anywhere. So we've become used to the fact that, yes, the arroyo floods, but it doesn't flood as horrible as it used to. We've been there since the 80s to see that, yes, in fact, the arroyo did used to flood really high up. The reason we're not flooding as much right now is because the basins higher up in the Doña Mountains are dry. We don't have to have rainfall directly in this area to have the arroyo flood. As long as it rains higher up, we have seen flooding down this arroyo. It's just astounding to me that there's approval for a subdivision to be built right into the arroyo basin. It's incredibly close. There has not really been construction in these areas because of the fact that it's the arroyo. But as we've gone further into this drought, there's been a lot more confidence that it's not going to flood, you know. And just with that brief review that I could do of that 209-page drainage study document, it cites that there is possibility for once in 100-year flooding, you know. And I didn't get a chance to see if it's taken into account that currently we're in a drought. This is not the full potential for this arroyo to flood. That's super impactful. The fact that they had to input drainage study, like they had to put some kind of drain to prevent these new properties from flooding. They're not going to stop flooding. They are. You can see that on the other subdivision that's on the east of this one, that yes, those properties do flood. Yes, the water overflows what's required of them to have on their property to the catch basins for that. It does. And the impact to us on Salsipuedes is that it further erodes our properties. Like The county has never stepped in to help us when the arroyo comes down and it floods Salsipuedes, making the road impassable. It's the residents, and not just the people in the buffer zone. We're just right directly across. It's the only reason you were able to notify us. Anytime the arroyo comes down, everybody down that road is impacted. Everybody has to step in and help because county doesn't come in and help us mitigate the damage from the arroyo onto the road. And more drainage, more pressure points where the water is going to come in is super damaging to us on the opposite side. I do want to say that this time for these meetings is incredibly inconvenient. People work. I'm sure a lot of people can't make it here. Their business hours, right? So I'm pretty sure that there would be a lot more people down Salsipuedes if they had to be notified, but they're not in the buffer zone to be notified, right? So my opposition to this is that it's incredibly short-sighted to be building directly onto a basin where there's already established tributaries. That water is going to drain somewhere. It's going to cross pressure points on the opposite side of that arroyo bank. We have videos as recently as last week when we had these rains, and we're in monsoon season, so we're expecting, hopefully praying for more rain, right? Who doesn't want rain in a drought? The arroyo flooded. The Salsipuedes was, we get water comes down because we're also downstream from the Doña Mountains. La Reina flooded. That road was recently paved in the last, I want to say 5-6 years. Before that, the county didn't step in to help us manage the flood. There is that catch basin down there, that little dam that catches the water. The roads become impassable. Now that the county has paved the road, yes, you guys step in, not right away. We're forced to use Del Rey, go around if we need to go that way, somewhere on that side. There are increased subdivisions down La Reina towards Goat Hill Road, and they mentioned Westmoreland. We don't live that way, but we see the increase, the impact to us because we have to use La Reina. When it rains, this is not a pretty sight. And, that is a disservice to the people that are buying these properties. I do want to also note that that drainage study, their conclusion did say that current conditions, as long as the proposed building plan didn't encounter any changes, when they sell these properties, who's going to be responsible if these people build rock walls? It deviates the water even more. It causes more erosion on the opposite side. Is that already built into those sales contracts? Is it going to be the subdivision that's still in charge of that? There's a lot of information that wasn't shared with us in advance so that we could understand what kind of studies the county did, what the subdivision was required to do before submitting this proposal already for approval, But that is my take. I am completely opposed to this bill, not to mention how horrible it disturbs the landscape, There was a lot of mention about wildlife. Yeah, there's a reserve up there in the Doña Mountains. We are seeing an influx more of wildlife as we're moving and building more, disturbing their natural habitat. They're coming in closer to the homes as before they weren't. So that, more people, more houses, super impactful. I'm really opposed to it, and I really hope you guys vote no for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alma
could I-
Mata?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Olson.
Chairman, could I address Mr. Casillas, please? Just a second. I understand that the developments and that will impact the hydrological characteristics of an area, and the more developments we get, the more that problem is exacerbated. Do we have a current hydrological assessment of that area?
Commissioner Olson, Chair Sargis. I can also let the applicant expand on this, but part of the submittal documents do include a master grading and drainage plan for the development itself. I believe Greg Bustillos from Flood, he's here as well too. And you might have some insight on, additional studies that have been done out in the area as well.
Having lived in a different desert, I understand that, some of these things need some acute hydrological assessments, and that, I'm sure that the people who are proposing this assessment have done as much diligence as they can. But it would seem that an experienced hydrological examination in that of the area may be prudent.
Member Olson, this is Tony Trevino for the record again. In regards to the hydrological study, that is part of the drainage study. You're exactly right. There is a difference from runoff on a undeveloped, natural existing desert compared to when you have a developed subdivision. However, based on the UDC requirements, we are not allowed to increase any discharge from the subdivision out of the subdivision. We got to maintain that pre-development flow. So in other words, no matter what development occurs with the subdivision or when houses are built, adequate ponding must be provided so no additional runoff exits the property.
Will it increase the canalization?
Yes, based on the design, there will be swells along the road, so it will be channelized and it will go into adequate ponding downstream as that water flows into the arroyo.
All right, so thank you.
Anyone else?
Alma Mata.
Over this a lot.
Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Alma Mata, 2065 Sal Si Puedes.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think just like everyone else, my main concern here is the flooding, of course. We live on the opposite side, so we see the amount of water that comes rushing down and how that has affected us, right? I've been there my whole life. However, I still also agree with everybody that it would be a disservice of those who are buying these properties because, we've already had the new subdivision across the arroyo and their properties have been damaged. So we're just kind of going to add on to, that. And I feel like it's truly unfair to those people. And the person prior to me mentioned, you're going to add on to that and how is it going to, where's the water going to flow? It's going to affect our street even more. And like how they mentioned about the street where Sunland and La Reina is, you cannot use that street, La Reina, whatsoever when it rains. There's no way traffic can pass through there. So where's the traffic going to flow now, And I think just like everyone else mentioned, that's pretty much covered all my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Okay, anyone else? Okay, ma'am, go ahead.
Patricia Flores, you had, or several people have talked about ponding. I built my house 18 years ago. According to everything that was required, we had a ponding area in the back built in our property by the builder according to all the codes that the county requested. The first week that we moved in, it was during monsoon season, it rained. That pond filled to the brim, it exploded, and it damaged our neighbor's trailer. That's what's gonna happen with each and every pond. The water that comes down off the hills is tremendous. Westmoreland has a hill there. It's not flat. And that's really, I think, the concern that everybody who lives here knows that that area that is depicted on the map is the low point. And that it's a flooding plain. That's there. It was there, 1,000 years ago where the water went. And building in there, you know what happened in Vado in regards to people building in a floodplain? Every year, we have the same occurrence where it's on the news. My house is flooded by 3 feet of water. It's just a reoccurring situation within this county. And that's what's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to any of these comments? Okay.
Tony Trevino for the record again. Based the drainage concerns, yes, a lot of these ponds are sometimes they're placed where in an area that's not feasible for that area, and they do overtop. However, these are going to be cascading down along the roadway in the swells. We'll hold it and keep on cascading down, so there will be no adverse effects to any building downstream. Everything's kind of staying within that realm in that area, so that's what would be out. Those are the comments that I'm addressing right now with the Flood Commission, with Mr. Steele right now, so all that will be addressed. He did mention his concerns, and we are working that out and going to take care of that.
Thank you.
Bill, Tony, in your disclosure statement, where's the discussion of floodplain?
There is a flood hazard warning in his disclosure statement, and it's specifically to lots 5, 6, and 7 of the subdivision. That's your section 26 terrain management.
So in relation to Commissioner Olson's question, who does the calculation on pond size?
That would be me, the professional engineer for this subdivision. So there's a drainage analysis that is done where we compare pre-development and post-development flows. And UDC has a requirement. The county has its own requirements of what has to be retained, what can be released, and where.
So if you build a pond on, this is hypothetical, okay? If you build a pond on a parcel and you size it according to whatever your calculations are, somebody buys the property, it rains, the pond gets blown out. Are you responsible for that, for undersizing the pond?
For the houses, when they build their house, another engineer will be placed in that pond. The ponds that are here are for the development of the road and pre-development flows.
Pre-development flows?
Yes.
Plus the displacement that the house or any paved surface.
This is just for the roadway currently. Each house that gets developed will be sized based on the amount of impervious area that they're going to do. Some might be a smaller house, or some might come with a 3,200 square foot house with the shop. That ponding will be sized at that point.
Who approves your calculations?
The county engineering department. So all my drainage reports, design went through the roads department, engineering, and it's with the flood commission also.
When do the Flood Commission and EBID vote in?
The flood commission is part of the initial process, so they had already reviewed it, and that's one of the discussions that's happening now to address their concerns. And EBID is not in this.
I'm going to go back to my question of a little bit ago. Let me bifurcate the problem. You have the amount of rainfall which homes in your area would contribute to the flow, correct? But you have mitigated that by pondage, correct? Okay, the other part of that thing is canalization. Is it gonna restrict the flow of water in that so that we are canalizing that water, which would normally be somewhat diffused in that if your development wasn't there? Are we canalizing that water, which would increase the rapidity of the flow downstream by any of your construction?
Yes, throughout this entire area, most of this flow is sheet flow. However, there are some little fingers, arroyos that drain into it. So yes, we do it, but however, those channels are designed for adequate velocity, flow, and erosion. There's minimum slopes we can do when they got to be plated with rock or so forth. There's minimum requirements for that address it.
Thank you.
Sir.
But the bottom line is you can't increase flow below the property from the historic flow.
You are exactly right, sir.
Okay.
Are there any irrigation canals or anything like that where that water could eventually go to, or where does it finally end up? I mean, it's got to be absorbed somewhere.
So this is up on the escarpment on the east side. So there are no EBID laterals or canals here. This water goes into the Doña Dam, which is controlled by the state engineer's office or the state engineer's office that already adequately holds the flow, historic flows.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
I have two more members of the public that would like to speak.
Albert,
Ms. Hernandez?
Have they been signed up?
Ms. Hernandez, yes.
yeah.
Good morning.
If you can pull the microphone down. Thank you. And
That's fine.
yes. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Yes. Ana Hernandez?
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
I would like to, well, I live in 2065 Salsipuedes. In 2055, there's two in the same lot. I live at the end of the street, so I see firsthand when the arroyo comes, with the force, it impacts us. We first see the flood. It floods to our property, and Salsipuedes is we always have floods there. So is the main concern about this project. So what's gonna happen when the water diverts more to this side, because we live at the end of the street. That's where the water stays most. And I'm concerned about if it comes to the point where we won't be able to come out of the property because of the flood to take my grandchildren to school. So I just want to say that is a main concern, the flooding every time it rains. So I just want to confirm that about the floods, all what they say. And I lived there for almost 40 years. So I see every time, it rains so hard, it's the same thing, always. In fact, part of the property is already gone because of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony Gutierrez. Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Anthony Gutierrez, 6050 Fifth Street in Oregon, New Mexico.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
You might want to move that mic up a little bit.
I gotcha. So I just came up to give some perspective. I did the surveying on the project, all the topography, and hi, Ms. Fisher. How are you? I just want to bring an indifferent kind of perspective to some of the things that have been said by the public and by the engineering. I have to remain indifferent in most of the projects that we're in because I get called in like this, but also to do testimony all throughout the county. And flooding is a big issue. This parcel, in my perspective, a lot of the neighbors that are discussing issues in the subdivision to the south, it's a lot higher density. And my grandfather actually did that subdivision years and years ago. His name was Valentin Magianis. And some of these flood problems historically develop over time because of development, as has been discussed. And that problem continues to gain momentum. But in this area, when you look at everything, like this picture that we have up, you essentially see that the setup and the layout of that subdivision caused this. And it will continue to develop because there's no way for it to develop otherwise. Very small lots with lots of development mean water can't go anywhere. When I looked at the layout of this proposal, it's avoiding those things. It's also providing all of the adequate design criteria that's required by the county. And those different engineers and home builders that will do this will follow the guidelines that exist now, not in the 1960s or the 1900s when the first subdivision was done. It's important to know that because an engineer now is going to do something different and he's going to respond to what's going on now. I just want to bring that to the forefront because in my perspective, going into all these different areas, looking at the different scenarios, and when you zoom out on this, you see a missing piece in an entire neighborhood. I like the wildlife too. I go out and spend my whole day in it. This property will be developed though. There's almost no way it cannot be. Even if it's used in the 3 lots that exist there right now, or the 6 lots rather. If it is done in so without any improvement, like Mr. Trevino's presenting for the client, that's gonna make it even worse because there will be no addition of ponding, there will be no addition of the swales around the road, none of that. And when I look at this entryway into the subdivision, it's very clear that Mr. Trevino has accounted for that. He's done his job. And what's being talked about now is such a clear problem with the county, but it's not a problem with our client. It's not an engineer's problem. It's a county problem. And it's interesting hearing all of these comments, but they're really directed to the county. They're really an issue with, hey, how are we gonna look at development moving forward? And how can we fix these areas that we know there are problems in? Kugel Road, Las Alturas, they're the same issues. But it's not the developer that's causing the issue. In this case, it's the design criteria that he has to design to that's the issue. FEMA hasn't even designated this area as a flood zone that Mr. Trevino is designing in. We're completely out of it. But who is checking FEMA? Not Mr. Trevino. Who's checking FEMA? And who's checking the county? That's the issue. I'll see it over and over again. It won't end here. But I want the people that are bringing the problems to hear something that's going to say, this can be dealt with, something can be done, I don't want to be the guy that's the grandson of the guy that subdivided. He didn't create that problem either. It just wasn't seen yet. We can see it now. And from my perspective and listening to all of you give your issues, this will improve the area a little bit. Not enough to make these problems go away by a long shot, but it improves this piece. It takes the water that's coming in, does something prudent with it, kicks it to the side of the road, slows it down a little bit before it goes into the arroyo, which is a problem right now. Those velocities, if they go up, it gets worse downstream. He's not doing that. It's clear. The houses aren't going to go in on the hill. He's going to slow it down and terrace it a little bit, and that slows down water flow. So I just want to bring that perspective. I'm not on anybody's side. I could get called into court against them, and I'd have to give my opinion. So that's my opinion right now. I just wanted to bring that together and try to reorient this as from a perspective that I see this all the time. And there's ways to deal with it. Anyway, good day.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm sorry. That's enough. Okay, this is a preliminary plat. It's not the final decision. We have comments from the Flood Commission, et cetera. So there will be more work done on this than what we're doing today. Okay, I just want everybody to understand that because I've heard the comments that have come, and they will be addressed. I'll look for a motion, please.
I move for approval of SD 25050.
Have a second?
Albert, you wanted conditional approval on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't say what.
Commissioner Zerniak, Chair Zarges, yes, I mean, similar to other cases, the condition being that they meet all of the outstanding comments.
So Teresa, is that okay?
That's a given.
Okay, thank you.
That's a given on that.
Second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Fisher, second by Commissioner Lear to approve this case. I lost it, I'm sorry. SD 25-050. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Lear,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Olson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Zerniak,
Yes.
Chair Zarges.
Yes. The subdivision, the preliminary plating is approved by this committee. Okay, moving on. Variance V 26-006.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Charlene Santisteban, 845 North Motel Boulevard.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I have the PowerPoint up for the variance?
IT, are we here? We need the PowerPoint for the variance, please. Thank you.
Okay.
That's the previous.
Yeah, this isn't the right one. I need the other one. That's V 26006, I believe, or 5.
Go back in there.
See it on here.
No. That's the
That's
first
the
one.
first one.
Huh?
He doesn't know where he's at. He fell asleep.
Good morning.
Good morning.
No, I haven't.
Is it lunchtime?
But
yet?
let me give you a little bit of history while we're waiting. This case is for a variance to 3.5 feet from the side setback. There was, I guess, a miscommunication. The applicant said they came in and they got information prior to pouring their cement pad for their accessory building. And that they were told that it was 3 feet, so they went 3.5, and that is in their narrative also. So, but it's 5 feet from the side, 3 feet from the rear. So if they gave them a little handout, that we have a little handout for each zone, the rear is right below so I can see how that could have been transposed. So there was a misunderstanding with that. So that's why they poured the cement slab, thinking that they were within their setback. And they were not. So they had to come in for a variance. When they came in for their building permit for the accessory building, it was discovered that they had busted the setback. So that's why. And I recommended denial because of, they didn't meet the criteria for the hardship. The 4 criteria, things that we have for the hardship, of a self-imposed hardship. So that's the reason why I recommended denial. But of course, you guys can decide what you want.
I don't see in our packet anything that shows that, first piece of paper that was given to them on the
No,
set.
I didn't put it in there. I didn't see it till after I had done this, so I didn't, when I went back and looked in the UDC, I saw on that picture, the diagram that we have on there, and I could see where it could be confused really easily, so that's just a bit of the history of the case.
So are you saying that the diagram wasn't clear?
Well, it was clear, but where the two, let me.
That's what I mean. I don't see that it's clear. It was kind of like verbal. Let me see, where's the side setback 5, rear setback 3. It's a matter of what they.
So they just flipped.
We're good? Crystal, if you're still there, they just showed us the diagram so that we understand.
Thank you.
Yeah, where the confusion is.
Okay, so this is a case brought by Aaron and Michelle Salas at 400 Plaza Drive in Mesquite, and it's a T3 zone. And they are requesting a 3.5 side yard setback where a 5 is required. And this is the location. And this is the land use aerial. And it's a 0.33 acre parcel in a T3 zone and located in the residential subdivision known as Herrera Acre Subdivision, which was recorded in 1996. The existing home is 1,922 square feet and was built in 1998. Existing access to the property is from East Plaza Drive, a paved county-maintained right-of-way. The parcel is in a T3 zone, and the existing building, I said that, and all of that is the same. This is a parcel close-up, and this is the zoning map.
Charlene, go back to that air photo. One more. So Where's the proposed building?
Can you tell me on this photo where, do you know where it's at?
The
Yeah,
tree?
so basically, it's gonna be here on this portion, on the southeastern portion of the property.
It doesn't show up on this one because this is an old aerial photo, but,
So, no, never mind. Okay, sorry.
okay. And I've explained this already. This is a site plan, and this is the rear setback. So this is where they put the 3.5 side setback instead of the rear. So-
I have a question.
Yes?
So right now, there is a concrete slab, but not a building.
Yes, there's a concrete slab there.
Now, my question is does the 5 foot, well, either one of the setbacks, the 5 foot or the 3.5, does that apply to the building, or does it apply also to the concrete slab?
It applies to the concrete slab as well.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, that's why they had to come for the variance. Okay.
Where, on that sketch,
Yes.
on that site plan, where are the streets relative to
Oh,
that?
it's on the front. It's on the front of that. This is towards the rear of the,
Okay.
you see, this is where the front is right here. Plaza Drive is right here.
That's considered the front.
And this is the back. Okay. Okay, 30 letters of notification were mailed out, and the agenda on July 1st, 2026, and Las Cruces Sun News July 1st. Signs were posted on the property in a timely manner, and letters, we did not receive any objection. This was 20% over the allowed increase or decrease, so that's why we had to bring it to the commission. This is the area of notification. And this is the subject property. And this is taken from Google Maps. When I went out there, I couldn't find the road to go to Plaza Drive. So I was on 228, and there's two entrances. One's along a canal, and the other one's on the other side, and I didn't go to that other side. So these are from Google Maps. And this is, yeah, it's in the back. And this is East Plaza Drive. I believe it's going west, and this one is going east. Okay, the variance will not constitute a grant. These are the 4 questions that they have to meet. The variance will not constitute a grant of special privilege inconsistent with the limitations on other properties in the area of notice. The variance does constitute a special privilege. No variances have been granted previously to the setbacks in this area. The variance will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or be materially injurious to properties or improvements in the area of notice. The proposed 3.5 side setback distance does not meet the table 5.5 site standards, 0.3 zone of the UDC. There is a physical hardship resulting from the size or shape of the parcel or from existing structures on the parcel or from topographic or physical conditions on the site or in the area of notice, and the hardship is not self-imposed. The applicant states that moving the proposed accessory building will require removing and rebuilding existing cement foundation, which would result in an expensive economic burden. However, staff believes that the variance is self-imposed as there are no hardships resulting from the size or shape of the 0.33 acre parcel or from existing structures on the parcel or from topographic or physical conditions on the site or in the area of notice. Number 4, the variance upholds the purpose and intent of this chapter. Public safety and welfare are secured and substantial. Justice is done. Granting of the variance will not uphold the spirit of the intent of the UDC 350-103. Intent creates disorderly, harmonious, economically sound development in order to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents. The property is outside of any incorporated municipal zoning authority within Doña County. You have authority to hear this case. Notice requirements have been met. The request of the application is consistent with the requirements of 350-207. The variance does not meet the 350-207 findings.
The variance will constitute or grant a special privilege inconsistent with the limitations or other properties in the area of notice. The variance does constitute a special privilege. No variances have been granted previously to setbacks in the area, and there appears that no other structures within the area of notice are in violation. The proposed 5-foot distance separation does not meet Table 5.5 site standards, the T3 zones of the UDC. The applicant states that moving the proposed foundation slab for accessory building will require removing and rebuilding existing foundation slab, which would result in the expensive economic burden. Granting of the variance will not uphold the spirit of the intent of the UDC 35103 intent. Based on the findings of fact and staff analysis, the variance meeting 35207.b, the findings of the UDC compliance, the various variance requests, staff recommends denial. So,
Charlene, and so at this point, they have built the slab.
Yes.
Has it passed inspection?
I do not know. I know that when they came in for the building permit that's when they discovered that the slab had been, I believe, I don't know. And Sean
So
isn't
we don't
here.
know if the slab's even passed inspection.
Yeah, I don't know that.
So did they build the slab without a building permit?
I don't know. I just know, yeah, that's right, why we're here with the variance.
Other questions of staff? Okay, can we hear from the applicant, please? Thank you, Charlene.
And then Chair and Commissioners, just to, a couple of points before the applicant speaks. A slab in itself doesn't really require a permit unless something's gonna go on top of it, which, because of that, the applicant had to submit an engineered analysis on the slab itself. So I know all those documents were done. And then right now, we're just at the point of whether or not we're gonna approve the setbacks that are being proposed. And we do understand that there, could have been a misunderstanding on the setbacks, because, well, you saw the kind of like the chart right there for the T3 zoning, and 5 versus 3 and on which property line it went. So we do understand that could have happened as well.
So if it's unclear to you,
it's clear to us. But, but when, talking to applicants, sometimes, we'll see, yes, we understand. And then, we end up in, in another situation.
Okay.
Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good morning. Michelle Salas, 400 East Plaza Drive.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Aaron Salas, 400 East Plaza Drive, Mesquite, New Mexico.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the time, commissioners, to just let us talk about this case. My wife and I have lived in Mesquite, New Mexico. We've been there for 20 years. We bought that home, and we've gotten permits with the county before. We've done an addition. We thought we were doing smart planning when we did this building. You could see we're trying to build a home for that nice 54 truck in the back, which is hopefully a retirement rebuild project that I get to enjoy. What we did is about a year ago, early last year, we called the county, wanted to make sure that we planned appropriately, and they're the ones that told us the setbacks. They told me 5 feet from the back side, 3 feet from the side. And so, gosh, it was like February, we started getting quotes on metal buildings. We were not gonna put a cement foundation. We were just gonna, the options that as a matter of fact, the plans that were submitted have the 3 options, right? That's concrete, the soil nails, and the pillars. And we were favoring the pillars to just anchor the building down in the back because we had crusher fines. It was fine. My wife, in her wisdom, said, hey, we already saved up enough for the building. Let's pull it off the building, put nice cement, make it nice for, she didn't have to sell me long on that. And so that's why we poured the slab. We poured the slab because this building does not require a cement foundation. You could anchor it down, you could put it in a different way. And so that's how we ended it with the slab before the building. When it was time, when we saved enough for the building, we came in and were requesting the permit. So again, the county told us 5 feet back, 3 feet from the side. And on April 7th this year, we submitted the request and showed the site plans. And Mr. Campos was there at the time that we submitted it. He looked at our site plan and said, I could approve this. Yeah, this is there. There's no issue here. I could approve it. We waited a month only to hear, hey, you need the cement certified and you need to move the building 1.5 feet to the side. We're like, what? So we're like, I emailed him and he said, oh, well, when I looked at it, I thought the side was a back and the back was the side. And I'm like, how can you even tell that from there's no way you could make that mistake looking at that site plan. And so we asked, is there anything we can do to adjust that? Is there anything we can do to fix this? And so he said, well, you would have to move the building. And I'm like, well, it doesn't make sense now, right, to do that. The building has been designed for the specifications that we gave, right? So to change it. So we went out and got an engineer to go out there and certify the cement. It's perfectly fine to build anything on, even though, again, this building doesn't require that. And so we're actually 3 feet, 8 inches from our property line. So we're asking for the variance just to be able to build this building as is. If we don't, of course, adding any more cement or paying for the redesign of the building from what we submitted would be the more expenses that we would have to incur. And so we feel in good faith, I think, there's dual accountability there that has, we've been trying to be responsible and to the spirit of what this says, right, is to build it responsibly and safely. Our 2 neighbors from the side right away came and said, we have no issue, let us know if you need to talk. The building doesn't impact the side property next to us. He has nothing there on that property. He just has vacant land. He's growing, whatever pomegranates there next to us on the pictures that you saw. You want to show those? Yeah. And so I think on our part, there's just pictures my wife took for the lot. You could see on the side that it's not going to impact anybody on the side. Our back neighbor was aware. He didn't have any issues as well in regard to that. So that's the variance that we're asking for. We feel like we've done our part. We acted in good faith on the information that were given to us on 2 occasions by the county. And even with that site lot, we thought we were doing the right thing. We went 3.5, right? We said that because we built a rock wall on the site, which we got a permit for, right? We wanted to give a little bit of cushion. Even with the slab, we put the slab 2 inches away from the rock wall so it doesn't attach to the rock wall in case it needs repairs. We tried to do everything responsibly and, of course, improve our property. This is going to be our home where we're retiring. We're not planning on moving anytime soon. So the improvement is for our home and our lives. And so we are asking for this variance. I know it's not typical. But I know if you go into the county, you see all kinds of stuff built, and people are telling us, why didn't you just put it up? But we don't feel that that's the way things should be done. And so I know I have the privilege of being a public servant too, and I think that's the part where I feel like there should be some accountability on both ends, is that when I give information out, I make sure that I'm giving out the correct policy and procedure, right? And I acted in good faith on the information I was given. Again, twice, we were given the same information. And so we're asking to please consider our request for variance. I don't think that what we're putting up is going to create any safety issues for our neighbors or our community. And as well, it improves our community as well. Just in fact that we're building something responsibly, and it's going to look nice.
And you're putting up a metal building?
A metal building, correct. And the plans are in there. It's a 16 by 24.
You going to speak?
No, I just want to, all I wanted to say is that we started this process April the 7th. So we started April the 7th, submitted the application. May the 1st is when we got the first email stating that we needed to make some corrections. My husband went back and forth with Ernie Campos between May the 6th through the 8th regarding the setbacks. And then May the 19th, we had to, with that email May the 1st, we were told that we needed a certified letter from an engineer. So we had to get an engineer to go out there and give us that. So when I came back in on May the 19th, I submitted the application and the letter, application for the variance. We've tried to comply with everything that the county has said. We've paid for all of the fees. May the 20th, we submitted for the variance. We were actually supposed to come in on July the 9th for the hearing for this. Paperwork wasn't submitted timely. We got pushed back again another few weeks, so it's kind of been a long process. Like I said, we've tried to do it right. We've tried to comply. We want to make sure that if we decide to add anything else, electricity, anything else, that it is done correctly, so we don't have any issues.
Thank you.
How high is the rock wall?
I think it's a 5-foot rock wall.
Other questions of the applicant?
Is the building's going to butt up right against the wall then?
No, it's going to be 3.5, it's going to be 3.5 feet, 3 feet, 8 inches away from.
The
from
side and then 5 from the back.
So the building will be 3.5 feet from the wall.
Correct.
Correct.
And the wall is how far from the property line?
So, no, it's going to be 3 feet, 8 inches from the property line. The rock wall, we built it right in the middle of the property.
Okay.
So it's 6 inches on our end, 6 inches on the
The neighbors.
neighbor's property.
So Charlene, did you say if they were within 20%,
Yes.
which was 1 foot, there wouldn't have been a problem?
I tried to bring this administratively, and in our staff meeting, it was decided that I had to bring it to the commission, and that's why we're here.
So what we're arguing about is 4 inches.
Yeah.
And we've paid for that, and we paid for the engineering letter.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Motion?
I'll move for approval of case number B 26-006, the variance to a side yard setback.
I second it?
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Lear, second by Commissioners Zerniak and Fisher.
Quick.
To approve variance V 26-006. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Lear,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Olson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Zerniak,
Happily, yes.
Chair Zarges.
Yes,
Thank you, guys.
thank you. Okay. Moving on. Administrative approvals?
Chair, no administrative approvals for today.
Thank you. Staff input?
For staff input, I hope everybody celebrated Spain's victory at the FIFA 2026 World Cup. That was a very, very intense game. Just to go back on a couple of points on, the cases that we had today. At least when it comes to setbacks for railroads, there is a small section in the UDC that talks about that. And basically it's saying, you have to be 40 feet away. That's a minimum setback. And you can include like noise barriers such as, rock walls or landscaping and stuff like that. But that's the only, item that addresses setbacks on railroads. Federal guidelines, I don't think this was going to be funded by any kind of federal grant money. So I know they have specific guidelines if it's going to be like a federal project or if you're getting money from the feds. And they have specific guidelines for location and, materials and where they can be and can't be, But at least when it comes to distance requirements for, just a private development, that's the minimum distance requirement for anything that's, along a railroad line, which is 40 feet. On the second case, they were talking a lot about a subdivision that was north, of the subject parcel. That they were bringing that up a lot. And, I didn't get too much into that, but I did look into it. Back when the UDC was adopted, before that, we did have a lot of provisions when it came to claim of exemptions. You couldn't do a claim of exemption inside platted subdivisions. We had time restrictions on, when you can sell lots, if you went through a claim of exemption. But when we adopted the EDC, a lot of those provisions were stripped away. So what ended up happening, through, the 6 or 7 amendments that we've done, since then, is we had to basically go backtrack and try to fix a lot of those provisions that were taken out. The main one that we did was we added a paragraph in there about what's it called? It was I forgot the name of it, but it was like a communal. Let me see if I can find the definition because we added a definition for this. Common promotional plan, that's the definition that we added in there. But basically, what we were having for a while was people would end up buying, these, 5-acre lots, and then coming back in and doing family claim of exemptions. They were creating 4 lots or 5 lots on each of one of those 5-acre parcels without any development standards. Basically all you had to prove was just, you had to show that you had, the adequate right-of-way, and you were good to go. So, that subdivision that they're referring to was, one of the main reasons, we had to go back and, try to fix that issue because we knew that was going to become a problem. And, we saw through the public input that it is a problem when, you basically have people creating a bunch of lots without any development requirements. At least for that one that they were talking about, the developer or property owner, he did come in, he did pull a permit from county engineering to pave the roads. He did some cul-de-sacs, but not to, the standards that, for example, Mr. Trevino is subject to. So, that's kind of like we get scenarios of what could happen, when somebody tries to develop something and they're following just basic, regulations versus, the subdivision standards. So, just wanted to, throw a little bit of history into that. Years ago, also, I think that area was subject to, they wanted to do like a cluster subdivision, not Trevino's property, but the one that subdivision. So, but I don't think it followed through because they could never get sewer back there. So I think that killed that project. But I know in the ETZ, they tried to go for a zone change. They got the zone change, but they never were able to bring in the sewer to support that cluster development. I think they were proposing like 1/4-acre lots or something like that back there. And with that, that's all I have.
I mean, the common promotional scheme was one of the primary reasons for Colonia's development,
Yes.
right? Yeah. It looks like we need to add that to our UDC review, make the side and the back the same. 5 and 5, no confusion. Do we have to clarify the graphics? Is that a problem for Ernie and the staff that are reviewing those?
No, we'll go back and double check. I mean, at least for the most part, we do hand out like our cheat sheets. They're on there. You have all the setbacks that are displayed on there. In this case, I don't know what happened. I mean, it just basically turned into a he said, she said thing, and
Yeah.
we're not going to get into that.
Okay.
Okay, commission input? I heard Sean's buying us lunch today. Okay, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're out of here. Thank you very much.